Hi, my name is Alana. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And on this channel, we review books. And I'm particularly, why is that word so hard to say? Particularly excited to talk about this book today. This is not going to be a long review. This was sent to me by Melville House Publishing. And I'm so glad they offered this book to me. This book was a treat to read. The Heart of It All by Christian Kiefer. Let me remove this book. I just reviewed that one. We are going to place this here. I'm going to go ahead on and say it. This book did what I wanted Ducks Newburyport to do. If you want to know how I felt about Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ellman and why I DNF'd it, that rant is 45 minutes long. If I can remember when I'm editing this video to put that link down below, I will do that. But to me, this book did what I wanted Ducks Newburyport to be. This book did what I wanted Ducks Newburyport to do. And though this is not a long review, I will discuss why. So let me stop talking. A good person, or was trying to be a good person, that is, in the way we all try and fail to be what we are not, to be better than who we actually are. So The Heart of It All by Christian Kiefer is a novel that takes place in rural Ohio, circa the late 2010s. So if you're familiar with Ducks Newburyport, it is also taking place in rural Ohio, circa the late 2010s. So yes, this is happening after the 2016 election. Kiefer crafts an intimate tale of small-town America. There is a cast of characters with each chapter is a different character's voice or a different character's point of view, though it is written in the third person. And they're coming from all walks of life, politically, socially, and economically. Though by no means is this a wealthy small town. Many of these characters are struggling, but you have some characters that would be considered middle class and they're doing okay. And this is a time post the 2016 election in which it seems as if people are just constantly at odds with each other. Kiefer, despite these characters' differences and their different beliefs, focuses on community and the common ground that actually tie people together, regardless of these various issues and these various differences. So each of these characters is currently going through a transition or a change or some type of struggle in their own narratives. But one character in particular that I want to focus on is Sarah, because she's dealing with the sudden loss of her 6-month-old child. And the reason why I'm highlighting Sarah in particular is because I think Kiefer depicts one of the most realistic and humbling portrayals of depression that I've ever read. I've read books like My Year of Rest and Relaxation, Sorrow and Bliss, where even though this woman's issue is never named in the book of Sorrow and Bliss, she's definitely dealing with some depression, right? But there was something about the way that Kiefer wrote Sarah's depression that I was like, He hit the nail on the head. And I think that, I just think it needs to be highlighted. The second doctor had prescribed antidepressants, which Sarah took regularly, but which further drew down the thick blanket of dry, cottony fog that had already come to feel as if it were the permanent weather of her mind. She knew she was depressed, for how could she not be? But the doctor's words about emotional and mental health suggested that the pain she described was ultimately a construct of her mind rather than her body. How she wished this were true. The pain continued through it all. First of all, the man's writing. The man knows how to write. She would have drained all the bank accounts in the world if she could only find the right person, the right doctor, who could see through her body in whatever way was required. She felt like she had become a person without skin, her nerves exposed to the slightest breath. Why then could no one find the reason for her pain? Every doctor palliated, and the amber bottles of pills multiplied in the bathroom. What she wanted was her life back. What pill offered that? She would take it by the bottle. There are other passages like that where I think whether you've ever dealt with depression or not, he made it universe. The way that he wrote Sarah's depression, I think could be universally understood, whether you've experienced something like that or not, whether you've experienced depression or not. So I will say that Kiefer actually doesn't heavily dwell on politics in this narrative. He does touch on it. You have different characters who voted to the left, and then you have different characters who voted to the right. But he also touches on the political landscape, because we also have, and also social landscape during this time. Maybe even now, because you have characters also of different ethnicities. And so he writes from their perspectives and how they're feeling about certain things. Like I said, though these characters fall within the spectrum, I think that overall, Kiefer does a fair job highlighting what these characters believe and why, without their political beliefs or their social beliefs becoming their entire identity. There is one character, disclaimer, that I feel like his political beliefs and his social beliefs or his racial beliefs become his entire personality. But that's just one person. And you have this plethora of other characters who just, they're normal. They're normal. Regardless of what the media shows you, most people are like the people in this book. And he highlights that people vote for different reasons, and you can't put them in a box. And oftentimes people are voting because they feel like, or how they vote rather, they don't like either candidate. They're voting for who they feel to be the lesser of two evils. And so I just found this refreshing. And you're going to agree to disagree with some of these characters, but he's not really focusing on that. He's focusing on, you can agree to disagree with some of these characters, but when you look at this character as a whole, they're more fascinating than that. And so this is the one quote I pulled out for that. He said, in truth, he did not see much difference. He did not see much difference from president to president. And you know what my favorite saying is, left wing or right wing, it's the same bird. So I just appreciated that. I'm not going to go into much more detail because, again, I think he just did a really, really good job putting these different beliefs out there. And these characters believe certain things, and then the reader can draw their own conclusion, which is what I feel like, which is why I was so frustrated with Ducks Newburyport. It was so one-sided. So lastly, the main theme of the heart of it all is community. So we have this small town where everybody knows everybody, and despite their differences, this is a community that supports each other through the hard times, and the neighbors have each other's back. Tonight, the whole store was understaffed on account of the funeral. The reason why I pulled that quote in particular is because it's actually referring back to Sarah and her family who lost this 6-month-old child. And so this is a small town. And so there was one lady who staffed the local grocery store to allow for everybody else to go to this funeral, because this is a community that's so small. When one of their own is going through a hard time, everybody shows up at the funeral, right? And everybody's bringing this family food so that they can, they don't have to worry about the basic things like feeding themselves or preparing food or whatever. So I thought that was just a really good example of that. They met again and then again, quickly entering into the ease of a friendship that felt as if it had been part of her life for a long, long time. That particular quote is describing an unusual friendship between a young black kid and he's just turned 20, and this, actually Sarah's daughter, who is a 17-year-old young white girl. And they just click. Everything else is irrelevant. From the outside looking in, maybe people were like, that's an interesting mix right there. But they just get on. And again, Kiefer is showing how we create relationships. We develop relationships based on the chemistry. You just get on with this person versus you look like that and I look like this, so we don't need to associate. This is how most people function in life, okay? You just get on with the people that you get on with. Regardless, you know what I mean? You get along because you connect with something deeper than the surface level. Kiefer does an excellent job portraying that to these two characters, these two young people. And there they were, these two clinging together as well as well all do in times of terror and heartbreak and sadness, and in love, the unbearable after all, for here we stand, still and ever, you and I. And again, there is one character, Mary, who finally gets a group of friends that she's never had, and she finally gets accepted. And Mary's plotline, I think, is actually my favorite because she's very insecure. She feels unattractive. She feels underappreciated and unloved. And then she finally gets genuine friendship. And I don't know, Kiefer nailed it. It's so well written. It's very poignant. There are some breathtaking sentences in this book just that are worth annotating just because they're so well written and you want to break down how he strung these sentences together. This is a simple slice of life story that is so appropriate for today, right? And I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. I give it a 4 out of 5. I loved it. I think I smiled through most of this book. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's true. And again, even though you're dealing with some characters who are going through some really tough times, the book never feels heavy, especially the way that it ends. And Kiefer does an excellent job tying everybody's story together. It's just so good. Highly recommend. If you read Duck's Newburyport and liked it, you actually would probably like this because there are some similarities, again, as far as the location. It's getting dark. It's raining outside. But if you disliked Duck's Newburyport, like me, because you felt like it wasn't nuanced enough and you felt like it was too preachy, you might like this. And again, you're not going to agree with every single character in this book. But I don't even think Kiefer agrees with every single character in this book. But it wasn't about that. It was about what connects all of these characters together. So highly recommend if that sounds like your cup of tea. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Also, feel free to follow me on Instagram where I get up to more bookish shenanigans. And I actually post all of my book content there first. So if you want to stay ahead of what actually gets posted on YouTube, YouTube is way behind. That is where you should go. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.